Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. If she comes back, I'll try to get her back in. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Apostle Alecia, and on this station, blessings to everybody. I'm sorry that we've been having a hard time trying to pull our guest in. But she wanted to, I got her on to, because the Bible talks about how we should talk with the seasoned women and men of God, that when you are young and you want to know things, because I want to definitely share that during this time of the year, a lot of times people we get caught up in our feelings and we get caught up in our emotions. And so the song that, I was playing, What Do the Lonely Do at Christmas? This is a song that I have heard my whole entire life. But it's a familiar song, but if you listen to the words, it's very depressing. Because when you're trying to move on and you're trying to go to a better place in life and you're listening to depressing music to make you second guess yourself. And so that's why I was playing it, because sometimes we second guess ourselves when you listen to songs like that. And when you listen to people, girl, you need a man, you need a woman. And so if you working on yourself, you don't need no man and no woman while you working on yourself. You need to continue to work on yourself so you can get the right person. And so a lot of times the reason why we are in fair relationships, because we're repeating the cycles that we have learned from our parents, from people who raised us, from people who was familiar with us, or from people that was on television. And we got to begin to recognize what we saw and what we was taught, what we observed. It was not healthy and it was not good for us. And so we learn a lot of unhealthy things that are not good for us. And so this is where the Bible says when you know better, you got to do better. And so as I begin to start praying and begin to start thinking, even myself being single, that when you are going through things, the enemy will try to bring familiarity to you to try to make you feel like and to make you second guess yourself. And that's what I want to talk about today. We got to make sure that we don't second guess ourselves, because if you listen to the song, she say that, you know what, I won't be happy because I'm not with you. And so we got to understand that your happiness, number one, that's a lie and a trick of the enemy. Your happiness is not based on a man or a woman. Your happiness is based on you. And so that's the first thing that she began to talk about in the song. It's because we won't be together and I'm going to be sad. Yes, you're going to be sad because of whatever that has happened in your personal relationship. But you got to begin to say, but I got to move forward. You got to begin to allow this time to let this be a time of healing and a time of deliverance for you. And what do I mean a time of healing and deliverance? Because sometimes we always think that everything is going to be good. God did not promise us that every day is going to be good. He said, those that suffer with me shall reign with me. And we got to be honest that, you know what, when we have picked the wrong people, when we have gotten in the wrong relationships, and then if you don't sit back and reflect on what you did, 9 times out of 10, you're going to go back into those same kind of relationships because you did not take the time to heal. And this is what I'm saying. So if you're in a place where you are single, or you just broke up, you in a recent divorce, you got to begin to allow this to be a time of healing and a time of reflection and a time of connecting back with God. Why do I need to connect back with God? I need to connect back with God because I need to see, where did I miss it at? Where is it that God was trying to warn me and I didn't catch on? Where is it that God was trying to show me something about the relationship and I didn't listen? And see, and this is where so many people, blessings to you, where so many people get messed up, because we get into the feeling of the holiday and we're not thinking logically. This is where sometimes people would take their bill money to go get Christmas presents, and that is foolish, because on January the 1st, some people got to pay their rent, some people got to pay their mortgage, and you got to understand, don't you let one day get you behind in your bills because man says this is what you're supposed to do. Because if, let's get technical about it, Jesus' birthday is not in December. And so we got to not get so caught up into our feelings and our emotions. And you got to get connected back to the Father so that he can put you back in a healed place. And so this is where you asking God, I need you to heal this hurt. I need you to heal this pain, Because if you don't allow God to get you in a place to heal this hurt, you got to be able to articulate to God where you're hurting at. Do you know what caused you pain? Do you know what in the relationship, what made that person not a good person for you? Because if you don't know how to recognize this person if you don't know how to recognize this person was toxic to you, you're going to find yourself being attracted to the same type of person. And you got to understand, this is exactly what the enemy wants you to do. The enemy wants you to be at a place where he wants you to keep repeating these same cycles. Blessings to you. And we can't keep repeating these same cycles. We got to get at a place that we recognize that, you know what, this is not good for me. And I always stress, they may not be that they are a good person, but they're just not good for you. Just like some people can't eat milk products. You got to begin to understand that, you know what, it's not good for you. It doesn't mean that milk isn't good. It's just not good for you, and it doesn't agree with you. And so that's the same thing. We got to be able to recognize, and we got to understand God will allow you to go through this pain. He will allow you to go through the hurt because somewhere you did not listen to your father. And let's be honest, when we tell our children things and they don't listen to us, we discipline them. And so sometimes God will allow us to go through discipline. He will allow us to go through hardship. He will allow us to go through pain because we ignored the Father trying to talk to us. We ignored what he was trying to tell us. And this is where you got to recognize that somewhere you have been wounded, somewhere you have been hurt. And this is where I was coming from in Jeremiah 17:9. It says, the heart is deceitful above all things, and it is desperately wicked. When you look up that word desperately wicked, that means that the mind is incurable, that something has happened to the human being that has made their mind so sick. God saying, can't nobody fix them but me. And this is what we got to understand. We have experienced breakup. We have experienced divorce. We have experienced grief. We have experienced sickness. Whatever that your issue may have been, it will cause your mind to be at a place where some people don't want to live. Some people are so depressed. Some people are so frustrated that they feel like they can't move on because of what has happened to them. And you got to understand, and when a lot of times when you have put so much into another human being, you have lost sight of who God is. You have lost sight and you have made this person your God unintentionally. I'm not saying that you intentionally say, I want to worship you. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is the Bible say that whatever you give your attention to, that's your God. And sometimes you'll find yourself getting in a relationship trying to please another person and not understanding you're neglecting the true and living God because you're trying to please this person that you say that you want to be with. And this is where when you're in a place where your mind is uncurable and you're not trying to connect back to your father, you got to know that you're in a bad place. You got to understand that, yeah, you going to church, but yet you have not become the church. Yep, you reading your Bible, but yet you have not become the spoken word. This is the indication that you are still sick in your mind. And this is where God will allow us to stay in a place because he's trying to let us know you have disconnected yourself from me. You have gotten so sick in this that you got to wake up and you got to recognize what you're doing. It is not healthy for you spiritually. It's not healthy for you mentally, and it's not healthy for you physically. But because we are not aware, and because we're not aware that we have disconnected from God, because the only thing is we wake up feeling some kind of way. All throughout the day you feeling some kind of way. You get ready to go to bed, you're feeling some kind of way. And this is exactly what the enemy wants you to do. So this is why depression during this time of year, people get in a severe depression. They get down and out. They get oppressed. They get suppressed because they begin to get caught up into their feelings, feeling as if they're not going to make it, feeling as if it's too much and that it's too hard for them, not knowing that God is right here. And this is where God says in Hebrews, he said, I would never leave you nor forsake you. And sometimes we have gotten to a place where we feel like God has left us, not understanding we left God based on what we were doing. And this is where we got to get to a place to say, Lord, I have allowed this person to be in a place in my mind and in my heart that they should not be. I have allowed this person to get into a place in my life, in my soul, that I should not have allowed them to. Because this is where you start looking at those old pictures. You start listening to these songs. What do the lonely do with Christmas? You start watching these love movies, and then the enemy start making you feel as if you have made a mistake by what you're doing. And you got to understand, the Bible told us that our flesh would never be saved. And so if your flesh would never be saved, you got to understand, you can't allow your flesh to tell you to go back to a relationship that God delivered you from. You can't let your flesh tell you that, you know what, you can make it right if you just get together. Sometimes people start having sex with people. People start with, I'll do whatever you want. You got to understand that that person need God just like how you need God. But because, the simple fact, because we have taken our eyes off of God, and now we have set our mindset on a place where we're trying to please another person. We got to understand, now you're dealing with abandonment. Now you're dealing with insecurity. Now you're dealing with low self-esteem. And this is where God is saying you're supposed to be working on yourself, not trying to make somebody love you. Because if you got to make somebody love you, that's an indication that you're not supposed to be connected with that person in the beginning. Because God began to tell us that he loves us with an everlasting love. The Bible says the love of God, the love will cover a multitude of sin. When you read 1 Corinthians, it said that love is patient, love is kind, love is not puffed up, love does not keep a record of people's wrongs. And so when you find yourself, or people are keeping up with your wrongs, people are telling you all the things, all the bad things you did and how you need them, you got to understand, you got to begin to question and say, you know what, this is not the love of God. Because sometimes we're looking for love and don't even recognize what really love is. And God is trying to show us that we need him. He's trying to show us what love is. But the simple fact, because we don't know what love is, we're sitting around here tolerating toxicity and not understanding that the enemy is trying to break your will. The enemy is trying to break you down in a place where he will cause you to be caught up in your feelings and your emotions, and that you're walking by lust and not by the word of God. And so here I got here some examples. Even I shared last week about Leah and Jacob, how even Leah, she began to get in a relationship with a man that she knew that did not want her. She knew that he wanted to marry her sister, but because she did not want to be lonely, but because she felt like, I'm the oldest, I should be married first, this is our custom, it caused her to be in a relationship with somebody who did not mean her any good. It caused her to be in a relationship with somebody that did not love her. When you read the text, the Bible began to talk about how Jacob, how he hated Leah, how he hated her, and how he despised her. And so sometimes you can find yourself in a relationship with somebody who despises you, and they just tolerate you, and you wonder why. I'm showing them good treatment, I'm trying to talk to them, I'm trying to give them my best. Why? How come I'm not good enough for them? Not understanding is, this person can't give you anything that they don't have. And a lot of times we are waiting and we're thinking, if I show them who I am, if I give them my best, hopefully they would give me their best. But can I tell you, it doesn't always work like that. You can give some people your best, but some people just don't know how to give, because they haven't been at a place where they've been healed. They haven't been at a place where they know what love is. They haven't been at a place to know how to treat you. And so therefore they give you only what they know. And we got to begin to understand, if a person is not educating themselves, you got to understand that that person is not ready to pursue a relationship. Too many times we are in relationships with people that are not educating themselves. I can say myself honestly, getting into a relationship and have not been taught, did not have the proper models before me, did not have healthy people around me. So I began to wing what I saw in relationships based on what I saw with other people, because I did not have a good foundation about relationships. And one thing I can say about our culture now, people do not educate themselves. We feel like, well, I'm lonely, so I want to be with somebody. I'm lonely, so I need to be in a relationship. No, could it be that you're lonely because you got some voids on the inside of you? You got some things that you have went through in your life that you never got healed and delivered from, but you're looking for somebody else to be your savior. You're looking for somebody to rescue you. You're looking for somebody to make you feel good about yourself, and you got to understand you got a part to play. But even again, because our culture, we look on TV and they make it seem like it's all about, oh, they gorgeous, they handsome, if I buy them this, if I buy them that. Can I tell you, that does not work? That is television. Because you got to understand, when you look at some of those actors, they fall in love when they make the movie, but after the movie is over, they are having a hard time coming together. You know why? Because on television, they begin to orchestrate it the way that they think people want to see it. But when it comes to reality, the personalities clash. They don't agree with the same thing. The Bible says, how can two walk together unless they agree? And so sometimes we are with people that we don't agree. And so if you don't agree with a person, you got to begin to understand, if you keep clashing, God is trying to show you something in that picture. He's trying to show you that that person is not the one. And see, and the problem is, I can say even with my own self, sometimes we will be in things trying to make it work. It reminds me of that little toy that babies play with. It's a ball, and it has a circle, it has a square, and it has a triangle, and you have the baby be trying to put the circle in the square, and he's trying to put the triangle in the circle, and it don't fit. And so that's a lot of times where God is trying to show us about some of these relationships, but we thinking, if I keep turning it a different way, if I twist it. And so when you got to do all of that and it's not working, and if it's not making you a better person, if you're not growing together, if it's not being productive, you got to begin to understand the enemy has sent that person in your life to waste your time. The enemy will send people in your life to waste your time. For you know it, you 18, now you 50 years old, and you have wasted years waiting on somebody to look at you as if you're good enough. And in their mind, you will never be good enough. And so this is what we got to begin to understand, and we got to stop being so long to realize if something is not working. We got to begin to understand, I got to leave it alone. I got to throw this thing in the trash can. I got to stop. Because if I'm trying to do something and if it's not working for me, I got to leave it alone. But here it is. If we get caught up in our feelings, what the lonely do at Christmas, and you seeing everybody else hugged up, you seeing everybody kissing, this is where you got to say, you know what? I can't be around this. Yes, that's a beautiful thing, but right now, I'm at a place that I'm being healed myself, and I'm not trying to take myself backwards. This is not a good time for you to go back down memory lane and you start thinking about the things that y'all used to do. This is not a good time to start going through pictures, looking at those moments, because you know what you're going to do? What you're doing is you're bringing in familiar spirits, and you're pulling yourself in a direction that you don't need to go. You need to be doing something new. The Bible says in Isaiah at 43, behold, I do a new thing. And so if God is bringing you out, you need to be able to do what's good for you. Begin to do something that's going to be good for you, something that you like, something that make you happy. Begin to go over some friend's house. Begin to go take yourself on the dinner. Go see a play. Go do something that's going to help you. But don't just sit around and say, oh, Walpole me, I'm by myself and I'm alone, when the first thing that you just said is a lie, because God said that I would never leave you nor forsake you. And so if I know if God is with me, I got to understand, and I got to build on that foundation that God is with me. This is where we got to begin to understand that your soul have been torn down because of the relationship that you were in, and it caused you not to trust yourself. And so when you don't trust yourself, you will begin to do things that feel good but not good for you. It will cause you to eat a gallon of ice cream, and you and I both know it's not good for you. It's a temporary good, but when you eat that whole gallon of ice cream, now you're sick afterwards. But at first, while you was eating it, it was good. And see, and this is where God is trying to show you, when you was in the relationship, it tore down your mind. And this is where God is saying, I got you by yourself, because I'm trying to teach you to trust yourself. I'm trying to teach you to be able to recognize what was good for you and what's not good for you. And this is where you got to learn to do new things. This is where you got to learn to help yourself and stop waiting on the bus. Well, I'm waiting on somebody to help me. I'm waiting on somebody to pray for me. No, this is where you got to cry out to God, and you got to begin to say, God, I need you. I need you to come back into my life. I need you to help me. Apostle, you making me sound like I backslid. What I'm saying is, when you have allowed a man or woman of God to be a man or woman to be your God, it has separated you from God. And so you got to get back into a place of right standing, where you are inviting God to come back into your life, to be back where he needs to be at, so God can reveal through Holy Spirit what it is that you have done wrong. And see, and this is where we got to be honest with ourselves, to say, you know what, God, I missed it. God, you gave me a dream. God, you had mama to tell me. God, you had daddy to tell me. You had my friend to tell me, but I chose not to listen. And so when you chose not to listen, you got to recognize you brought this on yourself, because God always say warning comes before destruction. And so now the enemy want to make you feel condemned. This is not the time to feel condemned. This is the time where you got to dust the dirt off your knees, and you got to get up and begin to start walking. You got to get up and begin to say, I'm going to make it. You got to tell yourself, I got to start loving myself. What does that mean? Loving yourself is not just about getting your hair done. Loving yourself is just not getting your nails done. Loving yourself, men, isn't just about you getting you a haircut and putting on your muscle shirt. Loving yourself is you're taking the time to deal with your issue. You got to be able to recognize what caused you pain, what it is that God tried to show you that you did not, that you ignore, that you did not listen to him. This is where you got to begin to say, you know what, God, I got hurt in me. It's where I've been holding on to things. I've been planning stuff over and over. This is where you need to empty yourself. This is where you need to begin to tell God what has hurt you, what has caused you pain. You need to work on forgiving that person. You need to work on letting it go. Can I tell you, you can forgive a person, and it does not mean you go back in a relationship with them. You forgive them so you can move on. You forgive them so you can get healed, and you can open up your heart to somebody new. So this is why you got to be willing to do your part. Because if you're not willing to do the part, guess what? You're not going to get what God has for you. Because can I tell you, the devil is going to fight you tooth and nail, because he don't want you to get what God got for you. He wants you to always be at a place where you keep those same cycles. Because if you want to know what the enemy wants you to do, look at your family. Ladies, look at the type of men you see in your family. Men, look at the type of women that you see in your family. That's the model that the enemy wants for your life. And then let's be honest, when you look at some of them relationships, you're like, oh my God. And so if you don't get to a place that you see, you know what is going on, because you're going to follow the pattern. You can't help but to follow the pattern that's been programmed in your mind. You know why? Because for the simple fact, that's what all you observed as a child. You only going to do what's been put in your mind, unless you are saying, you know what, God, I'm listening to you. God, I'm going to let you show me what's my next move. I'm going to let you show me what I need to do. And let's be honest, the average person don't do that. The average person just get up and they think, if I get in another relationship, I'm going to let this other person, I'm going to put this other person on my mind so I won't think about them. So you know what you're doing? You're now putting garbage on top of garbage. I'm not calling people garbage, but I'm saying the mess and the drama, because you did not empty yourself. You got to be able to clean out your heart. That's why it's called deliver me from me, because you got to be able to say, yes, I'm hurting. Yes, I don't like this. Yes, I put them before God. Yes, I gave them stuff that I did not have. I gave them parts of me that I knew that they didn't love me, but I did it anyway. You got to be able to recognize what you've been doing. But if you don't recognize what you've been doing, you will find yourself in them same cycles. You feeling hurt, broke, busted, and disgusted because you did not pray. And this is where you got to have a one-on-one encounter with your creator. You sit home. If you need to yell, yell. You need to cry, cry. You got to be able to empty yourself, because can I tell you, when you're emptying yourself, you're crying out and you saying, God, I need you to rescue me. God, I need you to deliver me, because I will not be depressed during this season. You got to open up your mouth and you got to make declarations and say, I shall live and not die. You got to get up and say, today is a good day. You got to begin to put on some music and begin to make yourself happy. Don't you sit and walk around and act like you know what, it's the end of the world because you by yourself. Because let's be honest, when you was in the womb with your mother, when you was in your mother's womb, you was in that womb by yourself. And so if you was in that womb by yourself and you made it 9 months, surely you can make it by yourself, and you're a grown person. You know the difference between what's right and what's wrong. But see, this is where God said, I got to uproot that immaturity. I got to uproot that laziness. I got to uproot that rejection. I got to uproot that abandonment. This is where you got to begin to say, I renounce and denounce you, you spirit of rejection. I renounce and denounce you. You got to begin to say, God, break this soul tie between me and this person. Call that person out of your spirit. You call their name. Call Bobby out of your soul. Call Bobby out of your spirit. Call Bobby out of even your private area. Things that remind you of Bobby. Begin to take the pictures down. Begin to get things that he gave you. Get it out of your sight. What are you doing? This is the process that you got to do where you can live and not die. Because you can't keep on feeling sorry for yourself, wondering if things going to change when God is waiting on your mindset to change. He's waiting on your mindset to change, and he's waiting on you to open up your mouth, because the Bible says faith without works is dead. And so you sitting there, well, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting on God. And God's saying, you're not waiting on me. I have given you everything that you need. And so many people, they sitting right here. This is when they start drinking. This is where some people start doing drugs. This is where some people just start being sexual immoral, where they just start sleeping around with different people because they thinking, well, if I sleep with them, if I get on my body, they're going to love me. No, what you're doing is picking up more spirits. You're now is putting more pressure on yourself, and you're separating yourself from God. And this is why the enemy want people at a place where they can't hear sound truth. People want to hear things that are not profitable to them. And this is why you see these same cycles. You got women fighting over men, men fighting over women, and you got all this foolishness, because if you really look at it, they both broken people. They both are hurt people. But because you don't recognize you hurt, you think that if you got to fight to make somebody stay with you, if you got to do all kind of crazy stuff to make somebody stay with you, that's an indication they don't want to be with you no way. And so it's really crazy that something is wrong with you trying to make somebody. You can't buy nobody. I don't care what kind of sex, what you do, you can't make nobody want you that does not want you. And so the first thing that you got to do is first want yourself. Because if you don't know how to love yourself, you teach a person how to love you. And what some people don't recognize is that when you allow a person take you through all kind of changes, you are teaching them how to treat you. You are teaching them that you don't feel like you're nothing. You're teaching them that, you know what, I don't feel like I'm any good. I don't feel like, you know what, that I'm nobody special. I don't value myself because of how you allowing them to treat you. And so you got to understand, if you love you, you're going to begin to want the best for you. And if a person does not want the best for you, if a person don't want to listen to what you say, if a person don't care how you feel, they are letting you know they don't want the best for you. And so this is where you got to be willing to walk away from a person that does not, and this is any kind of relationship across the board. This can be family members, because sometimes people love you where you're so toxic and you keep taking their abuse. And the moment that you stop, they think something is wrong with you. The moment that you start telling them, no, you can't do this no more. They're like, why? I've been doing this. I've been cussing you out. I've been saying this. I've been calling you that. Why you got a problem with it now? Because now I understand my value. I understand who I am. And so when you understand who you are, you understand now that you realize if I lose you, because if I lose you by trying to protect me, I understand that you're no value in my life, no way. And so this is where you got to have a heart to heart with you and God. And you got to begin to say, God, I need you to break off these chains of loneliness. You know what? This depressing music, my baby on left me, and all this side chick mess. Turn that mess off, and you got to begin to watch what you put in your ear gates. And if it's not being uplifting, if it's not building you up, you don't need to be wasting your time with something that's going to cause you hurt and something that's going to cause you pain. Because this is where God is trying to show you we can't keep going over these same cycles. We can't keep going over these same things. And if we wonder, if we feel as if God has let us down, when God has not left you down, we are sabotaging our own self because you don't trust yourself. You're sabotaging your own self because you are putting your happiness in your life in another individual, not understanding because you have never been taught you're not supposed to do this. And this is one of the things that I teach in my mentorship course. It's about self-love. How many people that don't love themselves? I'm telling you, it's unreal. You got more people who do not love themselves than you got people who love themselves. Because when you start loving yourself, you start setting up boundaries. You start opening up your mouth and you say, you know what, if you got to go, you got to go. No, I ain't gonna run after nobody. No, I'm not gonna allow anybody to mistreat me. I'm not gonna allow anybody to walk over me. And this is wherever, on the job, in the church, the store, family members, friends, relationships. It's because I value myself. And so you got to understand, if you don't value yourself, this is the place where God lives at within you. And so if you can't value you to take care of you, why would God give you anything else? Why would God trust you with a spouse? Why would God trust you with a healthy relationship if you don't even know how to value yourself? So you first got to learn how to value yourself, so in return you can begin to give that same thing to another person. But you can't give another person something that you do not have. You can't. And so if you look at the television, if you look at your girlfriends, you look at people are struggling in relationships, especially if they don't have God. Because when you have God, he's that peace that's going to convict that person, convict both parties to say, you know what, you can't do this. This is not right. But if you don't have both parties having a connection with God, somebody is going to mistreat somebody. Somebody is going to walk over somebody. And this is why God is saying, you got to connect with me first. Connect with me first. Don't get caught up into this drama. What do the lonely do at Christmas? The lonely lives. The lonely is not going to lose their mind because you at home by yourself. You at home by yourself 365 days a year. And I would pray that you don't let a one day make you feel like you about to lose your mind. I pray that you don't let a one day to make you feel like you about to snap. This is where you got to become mature and begin to say, you know what? This is not good for me. And it's time. The Bible said, when I became a child, I put away childish things. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. You got to begin to put away these things that's based on your feelings and your flesh. And you got to know what's good for you. Because when you start maturing, a lot of people don't understand maturity because there's a large group of people that are immature. And so when they hear mature talk like this, it sounds strange. It sounds different because deep down inside, you may be looking at an adult, but on the inside, you looking at a wounded little boy. And on the inside, you looking at a wounded little girl. And they trying to be in a relationship when neither one of them know what to do, but they just doing what they seeing everybody else do. And this is where we got to begin to start educating ourselves if you want to be in a healthy relationship, if you want what God has for you, you got to be willing to put yourself at a place where you're talking to the creator yourself, and you know what he wants for you. You know what he wants to do in you. He's revealing to you things in your heart that he want to heal. He revealing things, people that you holding on, that you got to let go. See, he's going to reveal to you what's going on the inside of you. But if you're not connected to him, you're not going to listen to what God want to do in your life. You'll be saying, well, oh, they fine. Ooh, and all of that is a bunch of mess, because 6 months from now, 3 months from now, you're going to find yourself hurt, just like how this last person hurt you, because you didn't take the time to get healed. You didn't take the time to connect back with your God and to connect back with yourself, because self-love is what it does. It loves the self. And you got to do more than say, I love myself, because you go by what you got on the outside. There was times I got my hair done and my nails done, and I did not love myself. So we got to stop lying to ourselves to think just because you get your hair and your nail done, but if you ain't dealing with your issue, you ain't dealing with your rejection, you ain't dealing with the abandonment, you ain't dealing with the insecurity, you ain't dealing with the poor self-worth, you ain't dealing with the low self-esteem. If you ain't dealing with your issues, you don't really love yourself. And what do I mean? Get with somebody that's going to help you to navigate, to deal with these difficult issues in your life, because sometimes we trying to deal with something that we don't even know. This is why you need a counselor. This is why you need a spiritual coach. You need somebody to talk to that's going to tell you the truth about what's going on in your life. And so you can stop going around the cycles. And this is where people get offended, because they hear the truth. And when they hear the truth, some get mad. Some get upset because they don't like what was said, not understanding they needed to hear the truth. But if you're not ready to be delivered, guess what? You're going to get offended with the truth. You got some people who want to murder somebody because they don't like the truth. And so on this station, this is where if I help one, you know what? To God be the glory, because I understand that when God is doing something with a person, they need somebody to help to show them what does it look like? What am I doing wrong? And so on this station, this is where we're going to be real, dealing with real issues where the church don't want to talk about, because this is a kingdom topic. This is a topic that, you know what, that will set you free if you want to be set free. But if you want to stay in bondage, so be it. But my job is to help those that want to be free. My job is to help those and to point out those issues within themselves so that God can come in and begin to heal those areas. And so as I begin to close out, I pray that what I begin to share with you, that it has you thinking. It has you really say, you know what, I got to do some soul searching. I got to really begin to deal with some issues that's going on within me, and stop walking around the mulberry bush thinking that stuff is going to disappear, not knowing that it's not going to disappear. You got to deal with your issue. And so this is Apostle AleciaBiggers. And if you're interested in being a part of my mentorship program, my next class is going to start the second week in January. And so if you're interested, inbox me and let me know so that we can reserve your slot. So this is Apostle AleciaBiggers. I pray that this message will enlighten you. Hopefully next week we can begin to go in and bring in our other guests. You know what? We're going to keep trying, because you know what? It's where the enemy, he wants to come in and he wants to stop it. But I declare and decree, he will not be able to stop what God wants to do on this station. Because on this station, this is where God will set people free. The Bible says people are delivered through knowledge. And through knowledge is what God want to do, is deliver you. He want to share with you some information that you don't know, so that he can begin to show you those areas of darkness on the inside of you. And so I will see you all next week. This is Apostle AleciaBiggers. You all have a safe weekend. I pray the blessings of the Lord be upon you all. Be blessed.